What's going on? What's going on, y'all? If you don't know, now you do know. You're officially tuned in to episode 10 of the HFWB Podcast series. I am your host, Clifton, and I would like to thank everyone who is watching right now on YouTube and for those also listening on Apple, Amazon, and Spotify podcasts. Thank you once again for providing HFWB the opportunity to present y'all with new information, because information is the new money, and the more informed and educated you are, the more aware of your health you will be, the wealthier you'll become in due time, and the quicker you will find yourself, leading to you knowing yourself and knowing how to make the right move and the right decision based on your health and wealth and overall knowledge of self. Now, those are some tips to solving some problems right there, if I might say. Now, speaking of solving problems, next time that you're dealing with a situation to where it's causing a little bit of problem within the course of your life, think of this quick little strategy as I take you on a nice little journey and throw in a little bit of a different twist from the last couple of episodes I mentioned, as far as thinking like a fly, thinking like a spider, all that good stuff. Y'all remember Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, right? The one thing I've noticed about that catches my eye about that fairy tale, is how each of the seven dwarfs have their own emotion and attitude that makes them unique in their own special character within itself. I would like to focus on one particular one right now, and we'll obviously get to the other six dwarfs down the road in future episodes of the podcast. I would like to focus on Sneezy here. You remember Sneezy, the one who's always sneezing all over the place, not afraid to let whatever's holding inside of him out. Now, hint what I just said there. He's never afraid to let anything that's inside of him out, which is a good way to open up some lines of communication, and just in case if you're having communication issues or problems and stuff like that, we can learn from Sneezy here in this situation, because it's hard to solve a problem if you keep everything inside, right? So your best bet is to vent out your frustrations, get it out of your system, and put everything on the table. That way, the more that it's verbalized, the more apparent it becomes as far as what's bothering you in the first place, leading to a light bulb going off on your head saying, I wonder how I could find this solution now. So overall, the best thing to do is just to let it all out there and just see what happens, and you'll be surprised on how quicker you'll figure out what the issue is right then and there, and you'll be a lot more surprised on how quicker the solution comes, depending on how quickly that light bulb goes off in your head. I just want you to think of Sneezy anytime that you're having problems with communicating with someone or communicating about something in general. Just think, what would Sneezy do? Sneezy would just sneeze everything, or I should say sneeze, and not be afraid to let anything out no matter where he is at. We could all learn from that. So I want you to remember that tip the next time you're having a problem as far as communication and anything like that. Now, I want to transition into something that's been going on, or at least it's been dominating the headlines all this week, and that's about the FDA giving its approval for the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. Now, that's a good sign, because it's boosting a lot of public confidence in the shots, and it's opening the ways for more universities, companies, and local governments to make vaccinations mandatory. And I kind of knew that this was going to happen. As a matter of fact, I predicted it a couple of episodes ago on the HFWB podcast, when I said it's going to get to the point to where these vaccines are going to become mandatory. I mean, I mentioned it, I want to say like it's going on already in New York, where they're requiring you to show proof of your vaccination card just for you to go work out at a gym or eat at a restaurant. Didn't I say that a couple of episodes ago? And sure enough, now that we got a full approval of the Pfizer vaccine for COVID-19, now it's going to encourage more colleges, more restaurants, more employers just to say, hey, if you don't get yourself vaccinated, you're not going to be allowed to make money here. You're not going to be allowed to dine out at this restaurant. Hell, you're not going to even be allowed to watch a movie or just go work out at a gym or something. I knew that this was going to happen, but it's just one of those situations to where it's like, you got to take the good with the bad in this kind of situation. Now, there's some good news to this. Now that I just broke all this down, because at least more than 200 million Pfizer doses have been administered in the U.S. under emergency provisions, and hundreds of millions more all around the world since December of last year. Now, this was just under an emergency authorization. We have already made so much progress, I should say, as far as bumping up the vaccination rate, not just in this country, but all around the world. Now that we got full approval of the Pfizer vaccine, and now that the FDA's put out a 360,000 page application and rigorous inspections and multiple clinical trials and multiple studies showing how safe and effective this is, that way we could put an end to this pandemic once and for all. And by the way, never before has the FDA put in so much work and shown so much evidence to judge a shot's safety. I mean, last time I checked, the FDA didn't do this with the flu shot, didn't do this for chicken pox. I can go on and on as far as the list of diseases that the FDA didn't specify the clinical trials and the effectiveness of all those shots. But the FDA definitely put in a little bit more time into this than they probably should have, into showing everyone, hey, this COVID-19 vaccine is safe, and the only way we're going to slow down this mutated Delta variant and any other future variants to come, you need to trust the process and get yourself vaccinated. I mean, I'm not making this up. The FDA keeps on saying it. The CDC keeps on saying it. I mean, I doubt they would just be saying that just to blow smoke, but some people are probably thinking that. And for those who are thinking that, let me go into what the Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla said about the FDA's actions, when he basically explained that this is an important milestone that I think will unlock some of the more skeptical minds. That I agree with, because a lot of people aren't just going to take word of mouth for it. They want research, they want numbers, they want facts to back up all these claims. Now, the FDA is pretty much throwing it all out there like, hey, this is what this is all about. Now it's just a matter of, are you going to go along with it, or are you just going to be left behind? Some people are going along with it, some are being left behind. At the end of the day, it's all about your choice when it comes to that. I fully understand that. But I advise you to make the wise choice and get yourself vaccinated for the greater good of yourself, for your family, your friends, your significant other, and if not for all those people I just mentioned, do it at least for the kids and to save the future of this world at least, if you at least have an understanding of how much of an impact that can have. Now on to what CEO Albert Bourla was saying in regards to all this. He was basically saying, of course, never before has the FDA put in so much evidence to judge a shot's safety, and it meets the very high standards required of all the approved vaccines we rely on every single day. Now, I apologize. That was actually Dr. Jesse Goodman of Georgetown University who said that exact quote I just said. Now, he's a former FDA vaccine chief, so I'm pretty sure he has a good understanding on the effectiveness and the safety of vaccines, on how it should be done. And for him to be saying that, that should even kill all the skeptical minds who are still doubting this vaccine to begin with. Now, overall, he also goes on to say that that should help anyone who still has concern gain confidence in the shots. He also hinted that more mandates are coming, kind of like what I said a couple of episodes ago. Now, overall, the Pfizer shot, it's making progress as far as continuing to be dispensed to 12 and 15 years old for emergency authorization until, of course, the company files its applications for full approval, just like the FDA just did earlier this week for 16 and up. And also Pfizer and Moderna, they have studies underway in youngsters in lower doses been available as well. So we're making progress in picking up the research and getting all that out there. Now, back to what the Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla goes on to say in this same article that I was looking at a couple of days ago. He goes on to say that he expects results from 5 to 11 years old by the end of September, and far younger than 5 years old will take a couple of months. So overall, we're probably looking at, based on what the CEO Albert Bourla say, maybe winter 2021 going into early January 2022, we can have at least all the kids vaccinated, and we can have all of them protected and safe, where we can now officially get back to pre-COVID times. And I'm not making this up when I say this. Even Dr. Anthony Fauci's showing optimism based on all the results that the FDA is saying. And you know how Dr. Fauci is. He's like considered the voice of COVID-19 these days, especially with the National Institutes of Health and with all the work that they're doing to help provide the necessary research to show that these vaccines are effective. Anyways, Dr. Fauci, he basically said that the U.S. could get COVID-19 under control by next year if, and this is a key word, if vaccines ramp up. As in other words, continue to bump up the vaccine rates, continue to talk those who haven't been vaccinated yet to go get themselves vaccinated, and continue to encourage everybody, if they come in contact with someone who has COVID, to of course go get tested, stay home, quarantine, and just do whatever it takes to protect themselves. That way they can protect other people whenever they choose to interact with the world once again. So overall, this is all positive news, and it shows that we're slowly but surely, and keywords, slowly but surely, getting ourselves back to pre-COVID-19 conditions. And this is great news to hear, especially with all the 150,000 new cases a day that we're having on a regular basis, and it's probably more than that by now. And I'm not even counting the 1,000 deaths a day that's going on, which is probably more than that by now. It was bound to happen eventually, especially with all the effectiveness of the Delta variant having on society, with the booster shots being right around the corner to, of course, combat that, and all the mandates to follow. On top of that, I knew that this was all going to happen, so it's just a matter of it being really a no-brainer at this point. Either get yourself vaccinated or suffer tremendously from COVID-19. That's all I'm going to say to that, and I'm basically going to leave it at that for now, at least until another day. As I get my notes here together here, I'm sorry. Overall, the FDA approval of this Pfizer vaccine is not just impacting healthcare overall, it's actually having a little bit of an impact on the economy as well, and let me show you why. Because the FDA approval of the Pfizer vaccine, it affected stock market shares, at least from like airline companies, hotel companies, movie theater companies, because it's encouraging news for those companies, because in their eyes it's like, hey, people could start traveling again and feel safe, or hey, people could stay in our hotel and enjoy their vacation, and keywords, stay safe, or hey, we can go watch a movie and not worrying about being in such a crowd and risk catching COVID-19, because hey, everybody will at least be vaccinated or be on track to eventually getting fully vaccinated. That's pretty much what the stock market is indicating, at least for all the company shares. And if you don't believe me, I'll break down some numbers here as a matter of fact. Now, the FDA approval of the Pfizer vaccine affected the stock market by helping shares in Pfizer and BioNTech raise due to vaccine campaigns that could safeguard the economy, as in other words, keep the economy from falling apart. Pfizer shares went up 2.5%, the BioNTech went up 9.6%, and it's funny how the big pharma companies are profiting off of vaccines, because ironically enough, vaccines usually aren't the most profitable profit for big pharma compared to all the $800 million they spend on a regular basis every year developing drugs to quote unquote treat chronic conditions. Treat chronic conditions. Pfizer shots could reach $35 billion in sales just for 2021 alone, and it's estimated to potentially reach $39 billion in 2022 due to the scale of the pandemic generating tons of revenue. You gotta love big pharma finding a way to profit even during the pandemic, with them developing all these shots and trying to get everybody vaccinated. And I'm pretty sure there's probably people thinking, oh, I'm not going to get vaccinated because I'm just going to help the big pharmaceutical companies get rich and make a profit. Yes, that is true, but at the same time, you're also going to be saving your own life and protecting your own family and your friends and your loved ones and the kids as well. So you got to put that into perspective as well. and look at the whole big picture as one before you jump to conclusions on that. Now, back to the whole impact that the FDA approvals of the Pfizer vaccines having on the stock market. Now, investors, from when I was reading earlier this week, are piling in the travel stocks and movie theater stocks following these news. As a matter of fact, the American Airlines rose 3.3% in shares. The Delta Airlines are up 2.9%. The AMC Entertainment, the movie theater company, they rose 7%, while Cinemark, a very popular movie theater company, they rallied 8%. Marriott, very popular hotel company, they increased 2.3% a few days ago on Monday. Mandate for vaccines are pretty much the primary reasons behind that. You kind of see the thing that's kind of going on here. Now that the Pfizer's basically approved their vaccine, more mandates are going to come, more people are going to probably be required to get vaccinated, as in other words, just get yourself basically vaccinated. That way you can get back to enjoying life the way you once did before this pandemic even started. And this wouldn't be so much of an issue to begin with. I mean, I look at all the stories going on with all the people protesting that you're not going to put a mask on me or you're not going to vaccinate me and all this. I feel like those people who are protesting, they're not seeing the bigger picture of what's going on. They feel like they're being forced to do something that they don't want to. This is probably one of the very few times in which I'm going to say that force is absolutely necessary in this situation, because it's for the greater good of saving someone's life. I mean, that just goes to show me the people who are saying, oh, I don't care about any of all this. You pretty much don't care about your own life. And if that's the case, then you might as well just stay home and not go anywhere and just isolate yourself from the world and just suffer miserably for all I care. I mean, you should take this matter very, very seriously if you haven't already, and I'm shocked that you haven't done that anyways to begin with. Now, overall, it's crazy how prices are always jumping up and climbing up on a regular basis, and there's a lot that goes into this. As a matter of fact, I was looking at a survey by YouGo for Bankrate, and it talks about, of course, the recent price hikes that's been going on, and it hit many Americans hard, especially the older Americans more than the younger ones. But either way, we're all feeling the effect of this, because it all has to do with good old inflation. And for those who forgot what inflation is, and those who are brand new to the HFWB podcast, inflation is when the value of this dollar bill right here goes down the more the cost of living goes up. It's like I said in the last episode. You remember back in the day whenever your parents told you, oh, I used to only pay like 50 cents for some bread and milk, for example. Now it's almost $4 just to buy a gallon of milk or something. I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm completely off on that price, but you get where I'm going with this. Things were a lot cheaper back then for a reason, because inflation wasn't such a big deal. As a matter of fact, when Richard Nixon, the president back in the 70s, took the dollar off the gold standard, it didn't have that much of an impact right then and there. But nowadays, that decision that was made, it's now coming into fruition as far as, oh goodness, this is not good. Because the value of the dollar is basically pretty much almost going to be extinct in the next 5 to 10 years if we don't get our act together. And as a matter of fact, the government and the feds, they know this, because there's a reason why the feds keep on printing trillions and trillions of dollars and pumping it into the economy, pumping it into the stock market, pumping it into bonds, because they're basically trying to liquidate everything and keep it from crashing and creating another Great Depression Part 2. And it's going to be a whole lot worse if and when that does happen, because it's bound to happen, especially in the next 5 to 10 years, because we're on a big bubble in the stock market. As a matter of fact, I was just looking at the stock market earlier. I mean, yesterday it was in the red, now it's in the green, all because of the head of the Fed, Jerome Powell, basically saying, oh, we're going to cut down on pumping money into the economy just because the economy's starting to recover back to what we feel is meeting our expectations. So we're just going to stop pumping money into it, and we're just going to let inflation take over. Like, no, 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 no. That is the wrong thing to do for multiple reasons, because the moment they start doing that, I guarantee you the bubble is going to burst. Everything is going to come down crashing, but it's going to be a crash that we have never seen before. It's going to make the Great Depression in the 1930s look like it was nothing. That's how bad it was going to be. And the Great Depression was pretty bad. For those who don't know what the Great Depression is, I would research the Great Depression, which took place from 1929 to about 1943 or 44 or 45, one of those years. As a matter of fact, you want to know what got us out of the Great Depression? World War II. For those who know their history should know that. I don't see what's going to get us out of this depression if it does happen. You might as well go start a war with somebody all around the world in order for us to get out of this one, because it's going to be pretty bad. And you want to know how bad it is as far as the category consumers on where the price hikes are taking place? You know, groceries, it's basically went up 71%. Gas, 67%. Restaurants, 46%. You know, that's just within those categories alone. I'm not even mentioning the clothes, furniture, and electronics price hike. That's up 35%. Home services like construction, housing, cleaning, landscaping, that's up 26%. Travel costs like airfare, hotels, and car rentals, that's up 26%. Personal care services such as salons and gyms, that's up 21%. Now, overall, prices are on the rise for many reasons, I should say. It's due to a mix of factors, including change in consumer behavior, as in other words, people are not traveling as much, going to the gym as much, or basically they're cutting down on what they buy at the grocery store, or cutting down on spending money on gas and eating out and all that stuff. You know, that's very unlikely, especially everything that's going on with the pandemic, so that's not a surprise. There's, of course, supply chain issues that play a part into that. As in other words, the people who are making all this stuff possible, they're having issues keeping the ball rolling with that, so that's not a surprise. And then, of course, shortages of some raw materials. That's also not very surprising at all, because with everything going on with the pandemic and the factories coming apart, and of course everybody catching COVID and everything, and with working within those spaces in the factories to, of course, increase the production line to give us all these products that we have right now, it's getting bad. I mean, the supply is running low. I mean, overall, it's not a pretty sight to look at overall. And then you wonder why everything is getting more and more expensive every single day, because there's shortages going around with key ingredients and key factors as far as what makes the whole operation possible. Let me see, what's a good example I could use? Well, take it back to, whenever this pandemic first started. You remember when hand soap and hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes, they were pretty much on back order for like almost all of 2020. And it got to the point where the people who were making the Clorox wipes, they didn't know when they were gonna bring those wipes back, because they ran out of the materials to, of course, make the stuff, because it was going so quickly and the manufacturers couldn't keep up. And they had to take a break and say, hold on, we need to get ourselves back together to where we can continue to produce this at the rate that it's going. And it's not a surprise that all this is going on as far as these price hikes, and it's crazy within itself, and it just goes back to inflation. The cost of living going up while the value of the dollar is dying every single day. As in other words, you're spending a lot more money on the very same things that you used to spend less money on maybe a couple of years ago. And you want to know why that's the case? I'll say it again. Inflation. Inflation is pretty much the worst enemy of the economy, it's the worst enemy of the feds, and it's the worst enemy of our precious little government. It really, really is. Which is why I would advise you to stock up on commodities like gold, silver, even get you some Bitcoin if necessary. As a matter of fact, I just recently bought me like $15 of Bitcoin, and I'm going to continue to stock up on Bitcoin and Ethereum and any form of cryptocurrency, despite the fact that they're trying to come up with regulations on how to get a better understanding of like the digital trade assets and to put some sort of regulation to where they can at least manipulate it and pimp it to their benefits, or at least that's what the FTC, the people who run all that, are trying to do. But overall, I just want to point out a couple of things here. You know, the gold prices, they're kind of up and down. They fell like to 1,796 per ounce. The dollar ticked higher, and that goes back to what I mentioned earlier with the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, where he just did his speech on basically cutting down on the pandemic era stimulus. As in other words, Jerome Powell basically went on and said, hey, we've been doing good as far as pumping money into the economy and into the markets and stuff, but now that we feel like the economy is finally getting back on track, we're going to stop pumping money into the economy and quote unquote begin the tapering process of the pandemic era stimulus. As in other words, I wouldn't expect a stimulus check anytime soon anymore, nor would I expect, of course, the money to keep being pumped into the economy the way it's been, because it goes back to the Feds printing money at an all-time high. I mean, they were able to get away with getting themselves out of the big mess that happened with the crash of 2008, and they're thinking that that philosophy is going to work for this time around, but I feel like we dug ourselves in too deep of a hole to get ourselves out of this one, and people aren't seeing this yet, but in due time, it's all going to be making sense down the road. Believe me, I would just pay very close attention and read between the lines there. Now, the whole Feds doing the tapering of the pandemic era stimulus, this is basically based on assumptions that the Federal Reserve policymakers will still be injecting roughly $1 trillion in the markets during the time it takes to start and end the tapering of $120 billion in monthly bond purchases. Now, this is basically assuming an announcement comes later on in December and the 8-month target after that occurs with a complete pullback. So as in other words, this is all eventually going to happen to where slowly but surely the Fed's going to strip away of course, the stimulus produced money out of all this and pretty much say, hey, we're going to cut down on this because we feel the economy is getting back on track. I mean, I don't think that's a wise thing to do, but hey, we'll see how it all works out. I mean, maybe they know something that we don't, or maybe they don't know what they're doing at all. Only time will tell when it comes to that. You want to know another thing that time will tell as well? That's on our health overall within itself, because you remember how I was talking about how fat doesn't make you fat, sugar doesn't make you fat, and of course how we need to retrain our taste buds and get back to eating more healthy and all that stuff. I want you to look at this, for instance, before I wrap things up here. I want you to think of food as medicine, because there's a reason why the saying goes, you are what you eat. Whatever you put inside of your body is going to give you the fuel to keep you energized, or it's going to have you crashing throughout the course of the day every single day. Now, we need to cut down on what they call the SAD diet, the standard American diet of meat, potatoes, and baked goods. It's all bland and colorless and all that stuff. And I'm guilty of being part of that diet, just like most of y'all, I'm sure, have been part of that diet at some point, which is why I'm breaking out of that trend, and I'm leaning more towards eating the rainbow. Because you want to know why? Nature packs intense nutrition in super colored foods like, red peppers, yellow squash, oranges, leafy greens, blueberries, grapes, eggplants, and rainbow colored tomatoes or carrots, for example. There's more essential vitamins, enzymes, antioxidants, and a powerful packed array of phytonutrients. And you want to know a good example of this? Me personally, I like to snack on blueberries and grapes every single day because they're just so good, and I could eat that like candy all day. And did you know that blueberries, they help boost immunity and reduce obesity, diabetes, and protect against heart disease? And did you know that grapes are a great source of potassium, also like bananas? But also grapes, they lower your blood pressure and risk of heart disease and stroke. And I could go on and on as far as about the leafy greens, like for instance, spinach. Spinach is good in so many vitamins like vitamin K, vitamin D, vitamin C, which ironically enough is what most doctors are prescribing in the form of vitamins to try to help control the symptoms of COVID-19, I should say. Not to mention zinc, which also spinach has a lot of, by the way. If you didn't know, now you do know. And at the same time, you want to know what I found interesting about spinach that I happen to eat a lot of, by the way? It keeps you energized with the required levels of magnesium needed to accomplish day-to-day chores. So as in other words, if you eat yourself like a small little bowl of spinach salad, you'll be giving yourself the energy needed to accomplish whatever you need to get done throughout the course of the day. And here's another final point I want to make on this before I tackle this on another episode down the road. Oranges. I love me some oranges, and I know there's some people who love oranges, and for those who hate oranges, I want y'all to listen to this because oranges boost the immune system. They help the body make collagen, a protein that heals wounds and gives you smoother skin. Now, don't you want all that to be a part of your life as far as all the benefits of eating fruit and vegetables? Well, all you gotta do is just make that change and just basically retrain your taste buds and cut down on the sugar and the artificial sweeteners and all that and get back to eating more healthy and just having more of a healthy living, and you'll be much surprised on how much your energy levels will rise in regards to that. Now that I've made all the points that I wanted to make on this episode of the HFWB podcast, I want to end it on this note, and I want to end it by giving you a helping hand, so to speak, when I say following the canvas strategy. You know how painters like to use canvases to paint their pictures and put together what they have in their mind as far as the illustrations they want to present within their paintings. Now, help yourself by helping others. I'll admit it, I can be very, very selfish sometimes, and this is something that I'm personally practicing every single day, and I slip up on not practicing this as much. I'm challenging myself to do this, and I want y'all to join me on the challenge on helping yourself by helping others, because making a concerted effort to trade your short-term gratification for a longer-term payoff, that is a major key, a huge major key, I might add. Forget trying to take credit for everything. Forget it so hard that you're glad when others get it instead of you. As in other words, help somebody out, let them get their shine on, even though you did all the work and you deserve all the credit. You should basically take a page out of just learning how to take second place, even though you deserve first place. I mean, as long as you know it within yourself that you did all this, hey, that's all that matters at the end of the day. But overall, I want to end it on this. Say little, do much. I want that to sink in. Say little, do much. As in other words, less talking, more action. That's how I'm going to end this episode of the HFWB podcast for today. And I want to thank everyone who has tuned in to episode 10. Yes, I said it. Episode 10 of the HFWB podcast series. It's like I said on the very first episode of the podcast, man. I didn't think I would see the day in which I'm even hosting my own podcast and putting my message out there as far as reintroducing health, bringing in new life with great fitness, spreading knowledge and wealth, and teaching everybody how to mind your own business, because I need to remind you of this. You are your own business. You are your own brand. And you need to model whatever behavior or whatever you're trying to represent that you desire. That way people will take you more seriously, and people will know what kind of ground that you stand on whenever you put your 10 toes down overall. I want to thank everyone who has currently watched every single episode of the HFWB podcast up to this very point. I want to thank everyone who has shared this podcast to people that they know, even people that they don't know. I truly appreciate that. And I also want to thank every single person who has taken time out of their day to download one, if not all the episodes of the HFWB podcast. Thank you so much. I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I am deeply humbled and honored that y'all are taking time out of whatever it is that you're doing, wherever you're doing it at, just to simply give HFWB the opportunity to educate y'all on things you may already know or things you may not know. And with that being said, I would just want to say, I want to make an announcement here that the HFWB shirts are officially here, and I will be selling that merchandise for about $6 a shirt. So for those who are interested in having an HFWB shirt, contact me on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, whatever form, or for those who have me on Facebook Messenger, message me and I will work something out as well. So I just want to remind y'all that the HFWB shirts are now here. I'm selling them for $6 a shirt. Let me know if you want a pair. As a matter of fact, I'm going to probably do a video introducing them here momentarily. And also, I appreciate all the love and I appreciate all the hate, and I see all the comments from the HFWB newsletter. You know, there's some people who are over here doubting as far as the message that I'm trying to bring, and for those who are doubting it, here's my message to you. Just know that I see everything. I see the love, I see the hate, and you know what though? I encourage y'all to keep, for those who are talking about, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, or get this off of my news feed, or take this sewage somewhere else. You're the main reason why the fuel to the fire is going to keep on growing, and I'm going to keep on going just so I can continue to silence y'all with facts. Because if you don't like to hear the facts, then hey, why are you paying attention to begin with? Go somewhere else with all that. That's pretty much where I'm going to leave it at. And if you don't like what I have to say, I'm not forcing you to listen. You're taking time out of your day just to check out what I'm doing. So at the end of the day, I'm already winning because I got a reaction out of you. That's all I'm going to say on that. But anyways, continue to follow at Health F Wealth B, the official TikTok page for Health, Fitness, Wealth, Business. Y'all continue to check out the official website for HFWB, healthfitnesswealthbusiness.com/CP. Once again, that's healthfitnesswealthbusiness.com/CP. Y'all look out for the more HFWB shirts to come along the way. Like I said, I got my first batch of shirts here already. I'm selling them for $6 a piece. And I probably will be at this entrepreneur cookout event, which is taking place on August the 28th at Fat Boys Barbecue. So HFWB will definitely be in the building. Hit me up if you want a shirt there, and that way we can network and market. I want to give a special shout out to all the entrepreneurs in the wonderful city of Corpus Christi, Texas, who are doing what they can to put their business out there, put their brand out there, and get whatever message it is that they're trying to spread. I salute y'all, I support y'all, keep y'all doing y'all's thing. And overall, the HFWB Quadrant, my first book, is officially on the way. It should be out sometime next month, as it's about 25 to 30% complete. I will continue to ramp up the process in that. And other than that, I just want to thank you once again for tuning in to episode 10 of the HFWB podcast series. I want y'all to stay healthy, stay wealthy, stay blessed. Have yourself a wonderful day. And until next time, everybody, salute.